In despair, your new master.
Allah raises the souls of the unspeakably evil.
You sought to enslave all of Hyboria. No man shall live in chains.
That's a line from the movie. That's actual written dialogue.
Wait a minute, they use that same dialogue in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, so.
Yeah, that line's in a lot of movies. I mean, whoever came up with that line should be getting royalties.
I don't know,
and
man.
be sitting like a king.
Leon.
On a throne of skulls.
Leon.
What
is good in life? Wrong. Cyrus. Wrong. Corey.
That's what's good in life.
Wrong.
How about watching the original Conan instead of this one? Is
Yes.
what is good in life.
That is the correct
I'm not even a
answer.
big Conan fan, but I'm watching this and I'm like, hey, because I've seen the Conan movies when I was a kid, but it's like I saw them on HBO, and that's how I felt like I should have been watching this Conan too.
Hey, man, listen. I saw the original Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan in the theater when it came out on the Friday that it was released.
What you want? A cookie?
And that was the birth of the Earth, right?
And I didn't like it.
You didn't?
What? I think it was that good.
Are you fucking kidding?
Well, he was too old for it.
Oh my god!
I was like, you know what? I was there when this happened. And it didn't go down nothing like that.
Not at all.
Can we throw him back in the volcano right now?
Leon the Barbarian.
Jesus.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? Hey, I lived this. I was there when they destroyed my village.
Now he's the one who Conan killed at the end of that movie.
Are you sure with your old age?
James Earl Jones.
Are you sure with your old age you're not getting this confused with your Hunter of the Future? Are you sure? Because that wasn't that
Hey,
great.
all right. I'll admit that almost every other barbarian movie that has come out since Conan has been shittier.
Or before.
Even or before.
It is the topper.
And I was like, okay,
films.
looking back, I can go like, all right, it is better than most of these things that have come out, but I wasn't that crazy about it.
You're insane.
I mean, you know what? It was like, I'd read Conan, I was like, well, it's a fine Schwarzenegger Barbarian movie, but it ain't Conan.
Please don't make me bring Spider-Man.
I'm actually a big fan of the original Conan, and I'm right there with you, Coast. And
Thank
I even
God.
just rewatched it recently. It was like, I actually like it better now than I did when I was a kid, even.
It's
Because
still a
the fact that
masterpiece.
I know what I'm getting into. I'm going, you know what? This is a film, a silly fantasy film, a Dungeons and Dragons film, if you will, about a big fucking barbarian starring a guy who's not really that great of an actor, but he's good at physical stuff, who is like supposed to be the ultimate man's man. And on that level, it totally works. It's got really cool action. It's bloody as hell. It's filled with like naked women, and it's got some great, just ridiculously machismo lines in it, like, what is good in this.
Oh yeah, no. Every line in that movie is quotable, and on top of that, I mean, that movie still holds up as far as a film that you just don't ever see get made. I mean, that movie was directed by Crom. I don't know if you know that, but it was that powerful film, and it's almost like a fucking opera of a man's film.
And all those things I just described about what made the original Conan great and why I welcome these type of films. I mean, I enjoy even some of the lesser examples in the genre of this because they know what they are. Yeah, they know what they are. They're just here to have fun and to be macho and see half naked like chicks wearing chainmail and it's just like, wow, these are fun. This movie, it's like it understands all that because there's no shortage of boobs and no shortage of blood and gore, that's for sure. And yet at the same time, there's nothing enjoyable about watching this Conan.
I don't know. You know what? I had a good time the whole time I watched it.
No, I mean this actor, the guy who plays Conan.
I didn't have he's not a great actor, but you know what? You can't say that about Schwarzenegger.
You like this, in the words of Schwarzenegger, to hell with you. By the way, the original came out in 82. So
I was saying, I thought it was earlier than 84.
It's been years.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
To me, watching the original Conan, I was like, you know what? That's not the Conan that I knew, but hey, I'll go with it. So on that level, when I go like, okay, I adjust my view to this, watch this new one, I'm like, okay, it just gave me more of the same thing. I tell you something I got that you guys didn't.
What?
I saw this shit in D-Box. So every time somebody got hit, my seat got rumbled, twisted, turned around. It was fun.
Well, I saw this shit in IMAX, so F you.
I don't know.
I saw this down the street, so F you.
Well, Corey saw this.
You downloaded it. That don't count.
He saw this in a legal download on his laptop. So
I like the way he the reason why I like this better than the original Conan is because I sat on a vibrator. It's like, come on, man.
You got to admit, sitting on a vibrator vibrator makes everything better.
You a bitch.
If you get your head cut off.
But you saw this
I'm sure that's how Conan intended you to watch it.
You must have seen this at the strip club with like 2 escorts on either side of you just going at it. You're like, yeah, this Conan, I identify with
Awesome.
this.
Okay, what y'all say?
You like that movie better than mine just because you had a machine between your butt cheeks. You know, man, but it is a man's movie because
A real man don't need tools.
yeah, exactly. God damn it. You know, well, all you need is a simple plot like this. You know, I do like the way this movie was set up. Cyrus and I were talking about this before. This movie starts out with Conan they say he's born into battle, which pretty much means that his dad cut him out of his mom's vagina.
You love that way. She's like, I don't want to die without seeing my son. And she cuts the baby out of his stomach and shows it to her. I want her to go like, that's not what I meant.
Fix me up.
Conan's dad doesn't even bother to look where he's fucking sticking her with that fucking knife to where he just looks at her face and goes, ugh.
What? That's a regular procedure there. It's called a barbarian C-section.
Yeah. It says Cimmerian section.
That's like a barbarian Olin Mills tender photo moment right there. So yeah, he's like, she's just like, she's getting ready to have the baby. She's like, hey, look, I'm gonna die. Just cut this motherfucker out.
And Coach, you're right. His dad actually was Lothar of the Hill People.
Conan's dad is played here by Hellboy
Perlman.
himself, Ron
Yeah.
Perlman.
Yeah.
Where I'm sorry, but that motherfucker, I couldn't help but laugh every time he popped up on the screen because that motherfucker looked like the Cowardly Lion. Every time he showed up.
Yeah, but that's his face.
Conan, my boy.
I thought it was James Hetfield. I didn't know.
Well, they are the same person.
The motherfucker's got a lion face. Ain't nothing he could do
Yeah,
about
it ain't
that.
nothing. Yeah, that's just his face.
When a Cimmerian feels thirst, it is the thirst for blood. When he feels cold, it is the cold edge of steel. But the courage of a Cimmerian is tempered. He neither fears death, nor rushes foolishly to meet it. So to be a Cimmerian warrior, you must have both cunning and balance, as well as speed and strength.
Conan proves himself to just be a badass at the age of like 9. He like wanders into the woods. They got these tribes of monster-looking warrior guys coming out.
Sharpen their teeth.
Sharpen, they look like piranha faces. And I mean, they don't even talk. They just come out and say, ha, you know. They just go, ha. They go, ha, you know, they're clearing their throat. But these kids, they said, okay, you go out and run this, I don't know, run the 400-meter-yard dash or something. We're going to put eggs in your mouth. Don't let the eggs crack. All these guys come back. Maybe one comes back with a cracked egg and some shells. Some come back with a whole egg. Conan, as a 9-year-old kid, comes back with about 5 heads of this tribe that he just slaughtered. So we already know then Conan ain't one to be fucked with.
Yeah, even his dad is like, whatever you want, kid. Whatever you want.
The look on his dad's face is like, holy shit, I raised a monster.
He had the same look that Michael Myers' dad had on him.
Yeah, his dad
after he killed his sister.
When Conan came back, his dad, you know, he think his dad's gonna be like, "Damn, my boy," and his dad's like, "Fuck."
Why don't you just go play Xbox or do whatever you want for the rest of the year?
We already know that you don't mess with him, but somebody didn't tell Kala-Zim that they played by Stephen Lang, who these days is becoming like the baddest 50-year-old actor out there. But yeah, he comes into the village because he's looking for a piece of a mask that's going to give him the ultimate power. It's the last piece that he needs that's in this village.
Yeah, he needs the one ring that rules them all.
Yeah, it was explained to us in the beginning of the film by
Morgan
Freeman.
He comes into the village and he just says, you know, I'm looking for this one piece of the mask, and hey, you know what? I'm gonna kill everybody anyway, so just give it to me. That's all I'm saying. But you know, Conan's dad
He's
got to
pretty
be
fair about it, all things considered.
Yeah, you know, he's I mean, you know, hey, you know, that's what's gonna happen. He says, hey, look, you know what? I'm just looking for one piece, kill everybody, I'll be gone. You know, maybe I'll spare a woman or two. I don't know, but you know. Conan's dad is like, hey, look, I'm a barbarian. You know, I don't talk. I don't tell shit. I ain't got to give you shit. All right, well, you know, I'm going to kill you in this horrible way, and I'm going to let your son watch, and your son's probably going to die with you. Of course, Conan does not die. Conan grows up to be a big Hawaiian-looking dude, and his village is destroyed. His father's killed, and he decides from this point on, he's like, all right, well, my life mission is to just kick ass, and along the way, look for this guy that pretty much took everything from me and send him to hell.
And be a pirate.
And be a pirate. Yeah, hang out with black pirates and all kinds of stuff. You know, it's a straightforward adventure fantasy barbarian tale, and that's fine for the film, except that the film itself has a legend behind it, which whether you like the movies or not, Conan's a legend, and the guy that they got to play Conan, Jason Momoa, I'm not even trying to hold him up to Schwarzenegger's shoes. You know, I'm saying like for the character itself, I don't think he really fits.
Yeah, I don't think he really fits either. And part of the problem is, and it's weird too, because that guy's whole career has all been about, I can hardly wait till someone asks me to play Conan. It really has,
right.
because he's never played anything but various versions of Conan in his career. Like he was on Stargate Atlantis for years. We're watching it. I was like, man, this guy's a terrible fucking actor. But luckily, as this type of role, he doesn't have to do much more than grunt and do physical stuff, which he could do just fine. Here, they actually, when the camera's just on him, you start to figure out how bad of an actor he really is.
Oh yeah, and he's on Game of Thrones too.
Well, and that is exactly why. Yeah, when you watch Game of Thrones, there's a reason why he has no dialogue.
Yeah, because
there's a perfectly good reason. Because when he talks, it's like, all right, you just kind of shattered this image that you're trying to really pretend that you are, and it's not really working. And that's the problem with this Conan film that didn't work for me. He just seemed so casual and so cocky, which I'm like, this is Conan, and Schwarzenegger immortalized that role forever, and I don't think anyone will ever top that, only because he was so stoic. And just watching the original movie, they really they really played on the part of him being just the ultimate fucking badass that was spewed out of the fucking cunt of the earth. And and in this, you don't really get a sense of that. You don't really get a sense that this is the Conan that should be the ultimate fucking barbarian.
He never feels like the grown-up version of the kid we saw earlier in the film.
Oh,
because the
you're
kid
right.
you see in the beginning is such an amazing badass of a kid. You're like, this kid is a wild animal. He is barely constrained. And then they introduce Conan, who's like, I just don't like slavers, so that's what we do now. We take out slavers right from the beginning. It was like, that's not really Conan's thing,
well,
actually.
You know what? That's the thing.
Okay.
Conan is surrounded by people, swashbucklers, savages, fantasy creatures even, and all of them, they're like, ha, Conan, look, there are slave drivers down there. Let's go and free the slaves because no man should be in chains. And Conan's like, yeah, let's go, man, because I just want to chop up people. It's just like, fuck. I mean, he looks physically... Jason Momoa, I have no problem with him doing that.
He's good at the action part of it, at least as far as you can tell, because the editing is fucking atrocious. But it's just every time he has to open his mouth, it's like all he knows how to do is glower. He just lowers his brows so his hair's hanging over his face. It's like, dude, this isn't The Crow. Stop it.
You could tell he was hired by his physicality, obviously, and of course the fight scenes, because when the fight scenes happen, that's the only time I really thought, okay, this is the only interesting thing going on. But saying that, it doesn't compensate for the lack of originality that this story is trying to bring, even to the mythos of Conan. Because I'm like, you know what? Why didn't they call this Pathfinder 2?
To their credit, I wasn't entirely sure because everything looked like it was fake. Surely some of it had to be on a real set, right? Now there were sequences that were.
I liked a lot of the outside shots. I like the way the sets look.
I like the way the sets.
I don't see how you've had such a problem with all.
I like the way the sets were designed. Like the guys who actually did the art. I go, hey, my hat's off to you. You did a great job. The guys who did the costumes, really well designed costumes. The bad guys look cool. All the props look cool. All the weapons look cool. Great. What's her name? Rose McGowan is sort of the evil wizardry chick. I thought she was pretty badass in it. I was like, wow.
You know what? She
pretty
totally
nasty.
looked like the kind of girl that you would date. I kept
totally
thinking that the whole time. I was Cyrus would be all
high
over
school
her.
me would be just in love with her.
High school.
Hanging out at Hot Topics.
You like this, right? More than any of us did, probably, right?
Clearly. I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, to me, it was like what these barbarian films are supposed to be. I didn't go in going, you know what, to me, this is not like, hey, it's a remake of the first movie.
You didn't have a chip on your shoulder about it.
Yeah, I really didn't. And I just saw it as, you know what, I mean, as far as Conan hanging out with pirates, that's more from the Conan books. He had adventures where he did all this. And it didn't feel like the older Conan that Schwarzenegger was. It felt like the younger Conan. Jason Momoa, he's not a great actor, but there was never a point where he turned me off. The only thing that turned me off about him was that everybody else had accents from different regions, and his was just kind of American and bland.
California Surfer Boys.
Well, I mean, not quite Paul Walker,
Jason
to where he's calling everybody dude and describing things as tubular.
He's Jason Momoa.
But it was the kind of thing where I was like, you know what? It's not bothering me that much. There's not any kind of memorable dialogue, but there's not a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of the movie was never boring, and I loved every action scene. And sitting in D-Box here in the crunches, I got into it. I was like, you know what? We see a lot of action movies where the fight scenes, I can't tell what the fuck is going on. And with every one of these, I could see it clearly. I got into it.
Well, you got one thing right. There is no memorable dialogue in this movie at all.
Not a single
period.
line.
Yeah, I mean, the only memorable dialogue that I kept remembering was every time Conan yelled at somebody and went, hey! That happened like 10 times, especially during a chase. Yeah,
See, I thought he was yelling at the horse because there was a point where people on the horses and I thought he was like, hey, stop, hey, wait a minute, hey, and I was like, man, you're Conan, you don't have to tell nobody to stop. No, drive after that, right after that dude, man.
Yeah. Just punch the horse,
or just right in front of it and just look at him, and they're like, oh fuck, that's Conan. Stop.
Yeah,
but Leon, I actually agree with you totally with all the other stuff you said, though. I mean, the thing is, the dialogue not being so terrible was so bad that it did pull me out of him. It was every time they uttered their mouths, it was terrible. But the fight scenes were, on the whole, like I said, outside of the fact they're really badly edited, they were well planned, at least. There were some cool sequences. There was a whole thing where the witch had made these sand people would just pop out of the sand and then could pop back into the sand.
Is that a racial
Conan.
slur?
Huh?
Is that a racial slur?
No, man, the sand people, they're always killing Jawas
He said
and
sand
shit, you know?
people, not sand niggas.
Yeah. Thank you. That was actually a great little action sequence, except as it went along, it was like, wait, where are you going with this? And then it just kind of peters out.
There's a reason why they're releasing this late in August. There's like almost a decade of production going on here, over a decade, and they had a lot of people attached to this that I thought probably would have made this a much better film.
Well, not to mention the original director, John Milius, wanted to do this really bad
he did.
at one point.
He did, and then they passed it off to the Wachowski brothers at one time. They tried to art director Boaz Yarkin, whose biggest movies like is Fresh, and then the person who was going to bring it the closest to production was Robert Rodriguez. And that guy, he dropped that to go do Grindhouse. So now,
the thing is, actually, the guy who was about to, at least that there was a lot of press about it coming out that it was going to be directed by Brett Ratner.
Brett Ratner just said, fuck that. He said, in fact, Brett Ratner said, man, I ain't directing Conan. Who's saying this shit about me?
Yeah.
I'm not even doing, I said, no, I'm not going to do this. Then
so good to know it could have easily been much worse than it was.
But it could have been much better or much worse. I agree with you. Like, some of the environments are cool. They have some things that are glorified matte paintings, but they still look cool, and in the background they don't really move anything. They're just digital matte paintings, but they look nice. I mean, it's nothing overwhelming, but I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, your villains are nondescript. You got these guys that just grunt and run around. Even your main villains, as much as I love Stephen Lang, he's just spouting off bad dialogue.
Which is what he did in Avatar.
I didn't praise him for Avatar either. I just said, hey, the guy looks intimidating, which he does here. It's so it just, everything is just bringing this down to be just sort of just kind of a mediocre film with some good parts in it. That part with the sand people, we had talked about this before. That's a great set piece in the film when they bring up these guys who are totally composed of sand and they're fighting Conan, and Conan cannot seem to defeat them except for when he just cuts them in half and they fall down just like any other person. You were saying, Cyrus,
it's like early on he's doing that and it's not working, and then there's this whole thing like, okay, well they're getting up off the ground, so you're like, aha, he's smart, we'll climb up. So because they're obviously their whole trick is they can dive in and out of the sand, so if there's no sand, no problem. Except that never really pays off.
That part is, even with its drawbacks, is good, but there's one major flaw to be seen that just describes the whole film. The movie is just probably too straightforward. I mean, like I said, movie straightforward like this, that's a DVD release, that's an HBO movie. That's something that doesn't really deserve a big screen treatment, like especially a property like Conan does. Now, that being said, the fight scenes in it are fun.
Well, they're
cool.
bloody as hell.
And they're very bloody. I mean, at the beginning of the movie, I was like, is this PG or PG-13? When I saw Conan cut a guy's nose off, I was like, okay, all right, this is a rated R film. And I appreciate that. This is barbaric as it should be. And I enjoyed that. But even the fight scenes are kind of filmed a little bit too tight, and the editing in those fight scenes are horrible. Man.
This whole movie is forced. That's the problem with this film. It's all forced because they're like, okay, we have an audience. They came here to see Conan. Let's show them tits. That's the first thing you see. You see tits, and then you see the fighting, and then you see the blood coming because it's 3D. There's nothing bad except I've seen it done in other films better. Like it was kind of it was lazy the way they presented it to me, and I just didn't care. The story above all was awful, and the 50-year-old fucking muscle bound Hicks' dad from Avatar, that guy. You could say what you want about his dialogue in Avatar, but he had presence in that film. He had a strong presence in that film. And this, he had no presence whatsoever. He had about as non-presence as Conan did. And that was a sad thing to me, where I'm like, you got a great actor here. You can even show off his fucking muscles instead of covering him up in some cheap-ass fucking He-Man suit or whatever. And I was really just like, man, there's some potential here. I will even say, look, the look of Conan, the way Conan is described in the books, it meets the qualifications that this new guy brings to it. But There's no backbone to any of this.
I agree with everything you're saying. Everything in this movie is, I'm sorry, what was the word you were using?
Forced?
Yes. Well, that's not it. I was just going to say
shitty?
This. I can't remember.
I just said a lot of things.
I'll pick a word that I use. Nondescript. I mean, everything. Presence. God damn, that's it.
Yes,
Things
presence.
have no real presence. Everything is about as generic as can fucking be in this movie, man. They might as well just put Conan in the can and put Barbarian on the front. I mean, it's
the cartoon. There was a Conan cartoon that had more fucking. That had more of a. Yeah, there was a Conan cartoon. Wow.
What can I say? Cyrus said it best when we were talking about it. It's the definition of a good rental. Because really, it's made to be watched at home on a high definition television, because there's not really anything else that merits it having a theatrical release, I don't think.
Certainly not the 3D, which was crap.
Oh, the 3D was just, I mean, was this transferred or was this shot in 3D?
I have no idea.
It had to be transferred, because I only noticed a handful of small things that seem to be made for 3D to come at you.
And I tell you what, the people in here who get Stephen Lang, I like Stephen Lang, and I thought he was giving it his all. I mean, he was acting his ass off with nothing. Even poor Rose McGowan, man, as the sorcerer's daughter of Stephen Lang's character. I mean, she's in there just having fun with that role, but it's nothing really there for her to do except just kind of growl and purr at women and slice them up with her long claws.
I thought it was a little too laughable, actually.
Freddy Krueger claws. Yeah, it was. Yeah, but at least she was doing something with it, which is more than I can say for that lead person, fucking Conan, who was just going through the movie like, yeah, dude. So I'm just like, hey, this is straight up rental. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, clearly I had a different view of it than you guys. Like I said, I am not tied to or married to the original Conan movie, so I wasn't even trying to compare it to that.
You shouldn't apologize to him, Corey.
And I just saw, I mean, if anything, I was like, you know what, as an action adventure movie, it's delivering on everything that I wanted it to do. Matter of fact, I went in really expecting much less, because I knew people who had seen it before were coming out, who saw it with Jason Momoa. They kept saying, it's fun, which I go, oh, that translates to, it's bad, but it's got a couple of things you liked, and you liked the guy. But I was like, you know what? I'm actually genuinely enjoying this. For all its genericism, the fact that it was willing to be bloody. I was like, you know what? When I watch The Lord of the Rings, this is what I'm missing. That the fact that there's, you see people getting killed and there's blood, and it feels like there's some consequence. Not saying it's good otherwise.
I wasn't going to say anything because the commenters will have that hand.
Well, that's fine. I'm not saying it's near as good, but I'm saying, like, you know what? It has that thing that the other was missing. But to me, it's a high matinee.
Wow. Wow. All right. Like I was saying earlier, I'm not married to the original Conan the Barbarian either. I really love it, but I've seen a lot of knockoff Conan films that are crap that I still enjoy the hell out of. I mean, I've probably seen most of them, in fact. They're great. A lot of them are being re-released now on DVD. I'm really enjoying going back and watching them again and going, these are cheesy. They've got so much terrible production value, but I'm enjoying them when they have good ideas in them. When they're bloody, when they're filled with half-naked beautiful women, usually advertised on the cover as starring Playboy Playmate of the Month from August 1978, someone. This doesn't have a Playboy Playmate that I'm aware of in it, but it certainly does have the amount of boobs that I like to see in a Conan movie. We get to see like a ridiculous amount of blood. I mean, points of blood that even I cringed. I was like, holy shit! There's a scene where Conan, to torture this guy after he's cut his nose off earlier in the movie, just shoves his finger all the way up to the hand in this guy's nose hole to fuck with him. And you're like, okay, stop now.
And even I was thinking, like,
I thought that was awesome.
I'm like, damn, man, that's nasty for you, man.
Yeah.
The real Conan would have fucked that hole. Come on.
A valid point, sir. But nonetheless, I like that quality. I like that it was that brutal. And I think there was lots of little ideas throughout the film. There's like, wow, that was a good idea. Wow, that was a cool look to that. There are all these things that felt like whoever got the story by credit probably deserves some actual points. However, where it falls apart is the way the director, the guy who's supposed to pull all this stuff together into a congealed whole, fails miserably on every level. Going back, though, it does offer all that other stuff that's fun. It is the very definition of a rental, but I thought it was a pretty good rental. It's a high rental.
Damn. Everything about it is so generic and so bland. You guys, with the exception of you, Leon, which I still need to throw you in a volcano. Corey and Cyrus, you guys have all said it all. It is a pure rental. As much fun as it is to see tits or whatever. I want to see if you got tits in a Conan movie and Conan's not fucking that girl. I mean, hell, what is the reason of calling this Conan? Even in the original fucking Conan fucked a crazy ass sorceress monster beast fucked the shit out of her until she fucking released all her demons.
Well, what about the pure blood Tamara in this movie played by Rachel Nichols? He had sex with her.
Yeah.
But in fucking Hobbiton. No, that fucking scene came out of nowhere, and it was because, oh, you know what? Conan should probably fuck this girl. All right, let's make it all fucking beautiful. It looked like the cover of some fucking novella, some chick novella that fucking Leon would read. Other than that, when are you
gonna take a long enough break from sucking Schwarzenegger's dick to throw me into the volcano?
You know what? Schwarzenegger's dick tastes better, all right, than this guy.
Well, I guess it's all steroided up,
so it tastes better, and it's good for you, all right? So, yeah. But the thing is, it's a pure Rendell in the purest, blandest form. And the thing is, Leon,
you said it's pure.
And it's,
print that. Co-host says Conan is pure.
In its purest form of bland. And I'm sure, along with Leon's applesauce, this will go great with it. But for me, I don't care. There's nothing there. This movie's gonna be forgotten. It really is.
What's your rating?
I'm sorry. A rental.
Yeah,
a rental.
You know what? I gotta. Even with all the bad things I'm saying, I know it's not as good as Lord of the Rings or The Dark Knight, like Leon was saying.
I'm not saying. Stop that.
But you said that. You said that. I'm saying,
as great as those movies are, they were lacking in that one.
I like
area.
the way he wants to see hobbits chopping up each other. It's like, come on, man. Even I looked at that and I was like, really?
That's what you wanted?
You want an exploitation film from Tolkien? Hell yeah.
Some short dudes with hairy feet.
It's all supposed to be Disneyland.
Goddamn, why don't we just make blaxploitation out of Shakespeare?
I'd kind of like to see
that. Not a bad idea at all.
Yeah. Hey, I thought Rudy Ray Moore already did that.
We could totally do with like a new version of Othello. I'm just saying.
Othello. No, you know what? And I have to say, I didn't give this movie credit enough for the violence that it has in it. I mean, you guys nailed everything in here. It is amazing to see some of the creative ways that they just crush people's heads. I mean, this is what I don't see in a lot of movies. Just like a lot of head crushing.
It was Bravehearty violence.
Yes.
I liked about.
Yeah.
Okay, you're giving it too much credit now.
Just the gore and the violence.
No. Braveheart at least had some impact because there are characters where you're like, oh fuck, that's like.
No, my God, you said it was Braveheart.
It was a fucking cartoon.
No. You're misunderstanding me. I'm saying just as far as the way they actually did the gore reminded me of the way they, like in the big battle scenes, people you didn't know who were getting their heads crushed in and blood was splattering everywhere. You're like, oh God, to see a guy's arm got ripped off.
And
there was that kind of thing where I was like, wow, okay, you're right. Do I have a connection to those characters? No, but I didn't in Braveheart either with the guys dying in the middle of warfare.
You're both right.
I'm not saying they pulled Conan apart and he went freedom.
Yeah, no, and you're both right. I mean, the violence is, you're not going to feel for anybody, and it is a cartoon. I mean, that's what I liked about it.
Totally is a cartoon.
Conan, it was so much. I've never seen people bump into a wall and splatter like they did in this movie. Conan could just walk into a room and just shove people gently, and they would just explode. I mean, it's like, and this is what I want to see in westerns that I don't see, that I see in a barbarian movie. They will punch the fuck out of a horse. They don't give a shit.
They did it like 10 times in this movie.
Yeah, horses are not safe in Conan movies.
Yeah, the horses took motherfuckers off and just like, here. Shit, I'll punch him myself. Conan, take him. I ain't coming near you, man. It's yours.
I saw what you did to that camel.